In this part of our tutorial, we're going to introduce to you integer arrays in Android. So we're going to do that just by declaring and initializing an array of integers, similar to what we did with our variables tutorial. We're going to use the example of a list of commands, so these are going to be commands to either move forwards or backwards, depending on the integer value, and that will carry integers instead of the booleans that we saw in the previous video. Now that we've seen what Boolean arrays look like, let's take a look at integer arrays. They're not so different, except that they are going to be full of integers rather than full of Booleans. And we're going to do this in Android this time. This is in mainActivity.cs. So just to recap, an integer is just a variable of type int. So here we have int I. In fact, let's get this out of here. Let's put it up here. So we have int I, and we haven't given it a value. I'm not sure why that's there. Okay, so this is just a declaration of the variable. We've given it a name and a type, and now let's initialize it. So we'll say equals, let's give it the value of 6. Okay, so now this is an initialization. We've declared it, declared the variable I to be of type integer, and initialized it to have the value 6. We'll do something very similar with an integer array. This time with the square brackets to indicate that it's an array rather than just a single variable. So this is going to be a list of numbers, and what kind of examples can we think of that would take integers? Well, perhaps we have some kind of a robot or something that we're programming to move forwards and backwards. It could be a robot, it could be a character within a game. So let's call this perhaps command list. So this is going to be a list of commands, so move forwards or backwards, with forwards commands representing positive integers and backwards commands representing negative integers. So let's say we have the first couple of commands be 1, 2, 3, maybe that's moving forwards 1 step, then 2 steps, then 3 steps. So just like a Boolean array, we have to initialize this. So we can do this in 2 places. We can do it up here and say equals new Boolean array, and let's give it a size. So let's just say 3 for now. So we can do this up here. This is an integer, no wonder we were getting the error. So we can do this either up here, or we can do this, I'm just going to copy this down here and turn that into a semicolon. So either way, it's up to you. Perhaps we don't want to initialize it up here and we want to initialize it down here within a function. It totally depends on what we want to do. Either way, this is how we would initialize it. So I'm just going to put this back up here because I want to have it all in one place and get rid of that. Okay, so now we know it contains 3 values. Let's populate this array, because right now it's just an array of size 3 with no values in it. So we can do that by opening these braces, and we can say that maybe we have a command to move forwards 1, and backwards 2, then maybe forwards 6, and forwards 4, then back 3, and then maybe back 2. And this is of size 6 now, so we can do one of 2 things. We can either change the size to 6. In fact, we can do one of 3 things. We can either change the size to 6, we can not specify a size at all, or we can trim this down to only 3 commands. Either one works fine. If we trim it to 3, obviously we'll have 3 fewer commands. If we don't specify a size, that's fine too. That way we can add or subtract elements as necessary. So we can have 6 elements, we can have 100 elements if we want, if we don't specify the size. Or we could just change the size in here to 6, and that's fine too. So this is basically declaring and initializing an integer array. Again, not so different from a Boolean array, just contains different values. And so this is a list of numbers, so there are very many useful places where we might want a list of numbers represented. In this part of our tutorial, we looked at integer arrays in Android. So we did this by creating a list of what we called movement commands that were move forward when positive integers and backwards when negative integers, and we just populated the array with this list of commands. So by now you should be able to declare and initialize an array of integers and assign values, as well as think about where an array of integers would be useful in your code, or in a game or an app.